What's up, everybody? Another edition of the Bears Over Beers podcast, powered by Second City Gridiron. I am Ryan Droste, your host this week, joined by my co-host this week, Mr. Bryan Orenchuk. Bryan, it's been a few weeks since we did a show, and I think the last time you and I were here together, we were feeling pretty good about our Bears. You know, we were looking at this stretch of the 3 games after the bye week, and we were making predictions, and like everybody, we thought we were going to be in a much, much different place headed into this Green Bay game. And instead, Bryan, I've bottomed out. I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm going to be drinking a very high ABV beer tonight. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We were talking about London last time and previewing Jacks, I believe. They had just come off a big Carolina win, and they balled out in London, and the wheels fell off. So I have also high ABV. It's only 8.6%. It is it's actually through a brewery near Charlotte called Southern Tier. They're also in New York in the Northeast, and they have a pumpkin beer called Pumpkin. And not only is it fitting for me this time of year, as I mentioned one of the last times that we were on together, I'm a seasonal beer drinker. And the autumnal flavor, I did the Oktoberfest last time, and it falls in line with that. But Waldron, as we have learned recently, has turned into a pumpkin. He's no longer welcome at the dance, and he's gone. So I have another one of these for another coach that will not be named until later in this episode. But it's a high ABV. It's an imperial pumpkin ale. It's delicious, not too sweet. And I'm going to go ahead and crack into it. What about you? What do you got?
Well, first, let me just say I love pumpkin beers, so I love that choice. I have had pumpkin before. Big fan. It seems like the pumpkin beers are getting harder to find now. I feel like people kind of added this like they got really negative. There's this negative connotation on pumpkin flavored stuff lately, you know, like, oh, you're going to go get your pumpkin spice latte. Look, right, man, I like pumpkin spice lattes. I won't lie to you. I partake in the pumpkin spice latte game, and, you know we're past Halloween now, but if they're still there, I'm going to keep drinking them. So I love it.
Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of pumpkins are made these days. They're not all created equal. I've done a lot of pumpkin searching, and this is by far our favorite. We actually live about 2 to 3 hours from Charlotte. We were there last weekend for a Ren Fair, the whole family. I took my girls. They love it. It's right near this brewery. And so we always get a few. And these crowlers were only $5 a pop. So I grabbed a few of them.
Wow.
So I'm really excited to crack into them. But what do you got, man?
All right. So 2 weeks ago, Jacob, I had a very high ABV beer that week too, because we were coming off the Hail Mary loss and I needed to, put out those flames. This one is not quite as high ABV as that one, but it's pretty high. 11%. It's a barrel aged. It's aged in oak bourbon barrels. And
is it Dragon Milk?
Nope. So this is from Founders Brewery out of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Founders is good.
Yeah, I've been to the brewery one time. My uncle lives there, and it was amazing. And I drank their beers ever since.
Nice.
And this one was probably my favorite beer of theirs, but I actually haven't had it in a couple of weeks. And I was at the liquor store over the week, and I'm like, that seems pretty good. I need to get this because at one time, like I said, it was my favorite beer. Now, I heard a rumor that it might have been named after a Green Bay Packers fan. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's called Backwoods Bastard.
That I got to try that. I've not seen that one from Founders. I love Founders, a breakfast stout. They've got some good stuff.
Breakfast stout is so good. Yeah,
it is real tasty. Man. Cheers. Oh, what's the percentage on this one?
11%.
Okay,
yes. So Girl Dads Unite. This is the Girl Dads pod tonight.
Yeah, like last time. Sure is. Got them all bathed and in bed on time.
Same, absolutely. Now you can see this nice pour on the screen.
Yeah, that's pretty.
This one, it tastes almost like you're drinking bourbon, but it's not that strong. It's got the beer taste to it, kind of like a stout, but aged in bourbon barrels. It's really good stuff. So check it out. And if you guys are in the chat, by the way, drink with us. Who doesn't need it these days as a Chicago Bears fan? We're no judgment. Have a couple of beers, have 3, have 4. We're not going to judge you, but partake in the beverages with us tonight, you guys, as we talk Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers on the horizon. But first, of course, we're going to put a bow. I guess you could call it a bow. We're going to try to bury what we saw at Soldier Field this past weekend. My God, the home winning streak that went back to the middle of last year is now over. Our Bears were embarrassed 19-3 by a horrible team, a 2-7 team coming in, worst team in the NFL. I don't think we can say that any longer about the New England Patriots, but I mean, mustering 3 points, the swan song for Shane Waldron, as we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. Bryan, react to the game. What do you have to say to close up shop on that game?
Yeah, so last week's game was probably, I mean, it's been a low point after low point after low point for us, right? The Hail Mary was bad, and it was definitely the turning point. But last week was really tough because the Cardinals game, because we got ramshacked from the opening kickoff and never let up. And then, the Cardinals came back and they won another game. They played really well, and they're tops in their division, so they're a better team. But like you said, the Patriots are a step below. It was at Soldier Field, and we just came out flat, and it was super depressing to watch. Questionable play calls all game, which is a theme of the season. Caleb was missing passes. Rome Odunze was dropping balls. And the defense for the first time all season, including last week, to an extent, the defense looked like they didn't have the desire, the drive, the want to. They'd kind of given up, and that was really hard to watch. Special teams was giving us great field position with returns and punts, and defense was doing a decent job, to start. I mean, we definitely had the talent advantage, I would say. Our defense versus their offense, and we couldn't convert. And so it was like, and my wife, at the end of the second quarter, she was like, "How you feeling, babe? What do you think?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I still think we're going to win, but I think it's going to be an ugly win." And we never turned it around. So it was like waiting for the other shoe to drop for us to finally show up, and we never did. And we've been showing up or starting late all season, and it's like we didn't start at all past couple weeks. And so, pretty frustrating, man. But, a lot to say, as far as who stepped up, who didn't. But, lack of heart for our players was a common theme for me, and questionable play calls. But what did you think? What's your kind of takeaway?
I thought when it was 13-3 at halftime, it felt like it was 30-3.
Yeah.
I was kind of with you there in the first half. I kind of figured like they would eventually turn it on, and things would settle in. We'd have to score, but like those first few drives, we're getting the ball at like midfield and barely moving it. I mean, that was so deflating.
Yeah.
And it's just really hard for me to get my brain wrapped around how a professional football team can come out that flat at home, given everything that had happened in the prior 2 weeks. They're finally coming back to Soldier Field for the first time since like September. It had been forever since there was a home game.
Yeah.
And you think like, all right, this is your chance to go out and prove it that you're not really as bad as you've looked. And, I thought the players looked frustrated. And, everyone saw the video on the bench of Waldron like laughing and Caleb looking annoyed with him. And I just, I try to like read into body language way too much, but like that bothered me a little bit. And like, I try to imagine, I never played football at a high level like these guys, but like, I imagine if the game was going like this, and this was like the third week in a row, I would be livid. Like, why can't we do anything right? Or we could not have been set up better to start this game. And, I think the minute that, despite of that great field position early that we fell behind, it was just like, especially after they scored a touchdown, not just the field goal, but then when they had scored a touchdown, it was like, here we go again.
Right.
Like we squandered we could have had a hot start to this game. Could have had a hot start, but then like Caleb was super inaccurate right from the start. Like you said, the defense wasn't playing great. We haven't played the run good all year seemingly, and that kind of reared its head a little bit. I mean, they ran the ball like, I don't know, 30 times or something in this game.
Yep.
And then for Caleb to get, I know Drake May was a very highly touted prospect, but I mean, I don't think he should be outplaying Caleb, who's played all year on his home field. And, Drake May didn't even have that good of a game. He had that bad pick he threw to TJ. I mean, he ends up with a sub 80 passer rating, or right around an 80 passer rating. But like Caleb was worse. It's like, how has this, I mean, you said it, the Hail Mary broke the team. I mean, ever since then, everything has gone wrong. That totally broke the spirit of the team. You can use a moment like that to rally the troops, come together, or it can just break you. And a lot of it depends on leadership, right? And I think we've all seen that the leadership for this team is bad. It's real bad. And that allowed that one play, or maybe two plays to the play right before the Hail Mary, to completely derail any positivity there was around this team.
Right. Yeah. No, 100%, man. And you see it's like one of those slow motion accidents where you see it coming, right? And you heard Eberflus's doubling and tripling down on his, just bullheaded, wouldn't have done anything differently in the Hail Mary in the play before. And then the players are coming out, like Kevin Byard, who's seen a Hail Mary or two in his day, and is like, yeah, we probably shouldn't have given him so much space on the sidelines that play before. And Dan Quinn, the opposing coach, is saying, yeah, we wouldn't have gotten the Hail Mary if it weren't for that play. And the discrepancy between what Flus is saying, it's, since then he's been taking accountability, at least publicly, right? So there clearly was a disconnect from that point. And super frustrating. One of my biggest takeaways watching the game was damn, like, how are the Patriots scheming players open? They had tight ends open. They had second, third tier receivers wide open against our, loaded back seven. And I'm like, I wrote in my game after notes, I was like, man, I wish we would have an offense like the New England Patriots. What the hell am I talking about? Like this should not be a statement that comes out of my mouth. And that's just, there had to be a change. It's past due. And I'm ready to move on. I'm excited that we have some new energy, and hoping that it means something, because at the end of the day, like the reason we were feeling good back last time we connected is because of our young, talented quarterback and the weapons we have and the solid defense. We still have those things. Now, granted, there's a lot of injuries on the offensive line, and I think that really is the foundational issue with a lot of the issues that our offense faced. Now, it was Waldron's job to compensate for that, and he didn't. And we have some issues, and hopefully we get our tackles back this week. We'll see. But there's still reason for optimism. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. If we can take advantage of our skill sets and call some good plays. I know we got the gauntlet coming up on our schedule, but we still have the talent. And Cole Kmet iterated as much on his podcast. I think it was last night. The locker room is still they're still in. They still think that they have stuff to play for, and it's going to be a tight NFC. But I think he's right as far as we can hang with these guys. We did so last year against Detroit. We should have won both those games, but. Anyway, I'm ready to turn the page. Sorry, I kind of
no, you're good.
Got away.
I mean, the positive of the gauntlet, as you called it, coming up and having 6 divisional games. Everyone's talking about the win percentage we're facing right now, but obviously that's going to come down a bit, hopefully. But like, if the Bears could start playing better, which don't get me wrong, I probably wouldn't bet on that right now, but if they could, they can make up ground fast because they're playing them all head to head twice, So,
Right.
I mean, they could move up in the standings if they could put it together and if Thomas Brown can give them some kind of spark,
Right.
on offense, because I mean, honestly, the defense is still a top tier defense, even with
Yeah.
the back-breaking play against Washington and that Hail Mary, like if the offense could score 20 points a game, they could still win a lot of games, even against some good teams. And like you said, we saw it last year against Detroit. I mean, they won 7 of the 8 quarters against the team that should have gone to the Super Bowl last year. So it's not unfathomable to think that they could possibly do something. But, to your point about wishing for the coaching of the New England Patriots and their offensive scheme, it's unfathomable to me that Shane Waldron could not scheme open the talent we have running routes. And
Yeah.
and we've talked about on the show multiple times, but like the types of routes he's got these particular players running, like Keenan Allen running literally more deep routes than he ever has in his entire career.
Yep.
I don't know how many times I've watched this team in short yardage situations, in third down situations, like never throw quick slants. I don't get it. It's like, I mean, obviously we talked ad nauseum about the swing passes and the screen passes that he would call. And we saw it last week again. But like, why are you not just doing like a quick possession throw, a quick slant to Keenan Allen, who's like one of the best of all time in those situations?
Yeah.
Makes no sense. So I mean that change obviously had to come. And so I mean Shane Waldron's out, and we can talk about Eberflus too and how he factors in here. But did you think it was weird how they didn't fire him right away? Like they come out Monday and we're still thinking about it. Was that odd to you?
I mean, I get the urgency thing. To me, this is already dragged out way too long, right? Like Eberflus should have been gone last offseason, if you ask me. But as far as like the Monday versus Tuesday, it doesn't do anything for me. Like I appreciate as a professional doing things the right way and going through it thoroughly and like I get it. What concerns me is that Monday night they were still vacillating between supposedly benching Caleb, but even more concerning, well, maybe not more concerning than that, but keeping Waldron on staff in a different capacity and kind of demoting him from play call. Like that would have been a big deal. And so I'm glad, hopefully it was Eberflus decided against that. I'm not too bent out of shape in going through that process. You're dealing with people, and you learn to really appreciate. We saw it on Hard Knocks. Like it's a tight knit family in that coaching room and the front office, and so that doesn't bother me too much. I mean, Waldron had to go; it's way past time, and I wish Flus was more hands on with requiring him to do some of those things, like hit DJ on a slant or whatever. But yeah, as far as that's concerned, it doesn't quite bother me. But I'm just happy he's gone, man.
Yeah. We got a chat here. I wanted a reference from Lamont in on the Facebook stream talking about how, people were open, but Caleb's not playing the greatest. And I mean, this is true too. And even if the guys aren't open, you could try to throw some of them open in these one-on-one situations, which he's definitely become. You watch the tape, he's become gun shy. And a lot of people are wondering if that's due to Eberflus and them coaching him to be overly safe. There's been a lot of talk about this on all the Bears podcasts, and because everybody's seeing it, the same thing kind of happened with Justin last year. And I don't know what it is, but like, we're going to talk about Eberflus and his status, but if that's what's happening, I hope the new OC here can just let him loose a little bit and let him learn. Cause I know they're still in this technically, but we got to open up the playbook a little bit for Caleb, and we got to see him making those throws. We got to build back that confidence. Like it looked like he was getting there before the bye. And then it's like they had 2 weeks and they coached him to like, all right, play safe with it. He hasn't thrown an interception for a long time. He has been very safe with the ball, but the problem is he's not doing anything else either.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of looks to so even when we had those big games offensively, he never started crisp. It always took him a couple drives minimum where he was missing open receivers early, and even sprinkled throughout the games. He was doing it throughout the season, and it just felt like recently he just stayed in that funk longer and longer and longer until this past game. Past couple games, it almost feels like it was all 4 quarters. But I feel like that's where Waldron. You know how you hear about? I was a running back. You hear about coaches that a running back fumbles the ball, the next possession he gets a handoff, first play, right? You got to get him back on track, get him, get his confidence back in the game, next play mentality, and it was Waldron's responsibility to give him some layups, and the some of those that the rollout call where the whole line plays that. You have no business. Clearly you haven't practiced it enough against good competition, and you got to give him layups to get him on track. And that never happened. And so hopefully Thomas Brown can do that. From what I can tell, and I watched some of his film. The film when he called the game against us as a Panthers coordinator last year. And I think I'm Bearing Down on Twitter posted that. So shout out to I'm Bearing Down. But a lot more in breaking routes, quick stuff. Really encouraged me because he's not, sticking to the sidelines and not all deep routes when we need a hot read that don't match the drop for Caleb Williams. And like Lamar said, Caleb's been off. I'm not making any bones about it. He has missed receivers. Now we have had some drops, which is really hard when you have that double-edged sword where you have a quarterback that's not throwing it, but when he does throw it, it gets dropped. It's like nobody wins. And that's been hard to see. And that happens a lot, it seems. But yeah, it's been tough. And a lot of people are saying that Thomas Brown, what can he do differently? It's the same playbook. You call different plays and call them in a sequence that builds upon one another, that caters to the strengths of the quarterback, gives him some easy wins. I think it could be a huge difference from what we see with the same playbook. So I'm excited.
I like what you said about it's his job to build confidence, because I think clearly when you watch Caleb, you see, I think that's why he's been so inaccurate. He is historically inaccurate this year, over 15 yards. I saw some of these stats out there on Twitter, historically inaccurate. And that was not something I expected at all out of him this year. I figured that, he would struggle a bit. I remember I did Bear and Balanced, Lester and JB before the season. And we did the big roundtable preview. And I had said on that show, he's a rookie. He's going to have those bad games. And someone in the chat jumped all over me and was like, why do you think he's going to have bad games? It's like, he's a rookie. It's going to happen. Not everyone's. CJ Stroud had bad games, even despite his historic great season.
Right.
And, we've had more bad games of late than we expected, but they've done nothing to get him back on track. And you got to give him the easy stuff, like you said. And I haven't had a chance to research Thomas Brown as much as you have. And so that is encouraging, because that is exactly what I've been saying, and a lot of us have been saying about the easy completions, just to get them going a little bit. And and I see it in the chat here too, the offensive line. That is clearly part of it too. I think he's hearing footsteps, and that's throwing him off.
For sure.
Some of those sacks are on him. He's holding the ball too long, absolutely. But other times people are coming in unblocked from his blind side. You can't have that on a rookie as much as he has, being sacked, I think, average 4 times a game or something. The Patriots sacked him 9 times. They had 16 sacks all season coming into that game.
Not even rush. And same thing with the Cardinals. Not a good. Yep. The worst pass rush in the league, and they also, I think it was 8 or 9 times.
Yep.
That the 2 consecutive games that he had are the most that a Bears quarterback has been sacked, I think, since 1991. I want to say.
My God.
Could be wrong on that, but ridiculous. And we're not talking about TJ Watt or Micah Parsons or anyone else, Myles Garrett. We're some of the worst pass rush teams in the league, and that, if that doesn't tell you that someone's got to go, frankly, Chris Morgan should be gone as well, the offensive line coach, and Ryan Poles should come out and publicly apologize to Caleb Williams, because he put this offensive line together. And I know we're not supposed to be talking about, we're not set to talk about Ryan Poles tonight, but he absolutely deserves a shout out in a negative way because this is his roster and he's a former O-line guy and he has not thrown resources at the O-line and it shows. And it absolutely impacts what an offense can run, what plays they can call, and, both the run and the pass game.
Man. I had to take a big swig of the backwoods bastard here when you were reminding me about the the bad pass rushes that Caleb back to back. Jeez, 18 sacks or whatever it is in back-to-back games. That is just horrendous stuff
against the freaking Cardinals and Patriots, man. Like,
who are the worst pass rushing teams in the league. Oh, yeah. This wasn't Justin going against the Browns in his first start. This was horrible pass rushing.
And one of the things about Thomas Brown still, Caleb was asked today what, essentially what he thinks will change or what will be different about Thomas Brown. And one of the things he highlighted was how he'll use the short game, the quick game, and how that will help open up the run game and the rest of the pass game. So I'm fully expecting that quick game to happen. Now, I don't know if you've seen this. I'm sure you have, but past couple games, the defense that have played us have used mostly man, right? So again, it's up to the offensive coordinator to have man beaters in their playbook and to go to it. And one of the things DJ said about Waldron was he wouldn't think about it, the adjustments that they would be giving him every drive until halftime. And at that point, they wouldn't have to give him the same look, so they wouldn't even need it, right? So, I coached minor league ball, but I will say it's the most fun I've ever had in my life, that like Tetris with the other coaches and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you got to be able to adapt, even in youth ball. You got to do that. And you see something, combat it somehow. And we, like you said, Keenan is elite in that category. DJ Moore can catch a slant on anybody. Rome Odunze runs some of the crispest routes I have seen from a rookie in a long time. And you have Cole Kmet, right? Like we need to capitalize. And I think based on what I've seen from Thomas Brown, what I heard from Caleb, I think we're going to do that. And I think we could, use the same playbook, but just call some of those in-breaking routes more, the quick, hot routes, and have success. So here's to that.
Yeah. Speaking of Keenan, I wanted to read one of his quotes when he was talking about Waldron. He said, quote, "Too nice of a guy. OTAs, camp, we fell into a trap of letting things go and not holding people accountable, and that's a slippery slope." It's pretty damning. This guy's been around. He knows. Keenan knows, and yikes. Guys, we're going to talk a little bit more about Thomas Brown and maybe get into a historical example of where a new OC midseason did kind of turn things around for a team. So more on that in a second, but first we're going to throw it to a quick break right here. We're going to hear from our friends at Underdog Fantasy. So do you think Caleb Williams will rack up higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns this week against the Green Bay Packers? Or do you think that Jordan Love will get lower than 1.5 interceptions against the Chicago Bears? We'll talk about Jordan's issues with interceptions here in a little bit. Well, you can cook up some entries for a shot to win real cash prizes all football season long with Underdog. It's the best place to cash in on all of your takes this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are going to be ice cold? Make your entries in just a few taps and turn your sports opinions into real money. Underdog has the Red Zone Rush. That's a game you won't find anywhere else. You just pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping right for yes and left for no. Simple as that. Plus, your entry will be automatically boosted, and you'll get a 51% profit boost when you play. So join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog with their pick'em games. You could win money by making entries with your favorite players. You can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more, just like I ran off. And so we've got a promo code, you guys, the Second City Gridiron listeners. you can sign up and deposit and use the promo code CITY, all caps, CITY, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, that's promo code CITY, CITY, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. I got to tell you guys, I went to download Underdog Fantasy. It's one of the highest rated apps in the App Store right now, 5 stars across the board. Very simple to play. I pretty much always go with the Bears games. I feel like I follow this team the closest. I should have somewhat of an idea of how they're going to play the teams, at least
How have you been doing?
historically. This year has been not as good as other years. I will say that, but I always put down a few dollars on the Bears games just to make it, more exciting to watch. And Underdog, like I said, is very easy to use. I would really suggest you guys checking it out and using that bonus code so you can get started with $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. So download that app today, use the code CITY, and higher or lower. Couldn't be any more simple than that. You must be 18 plus to play, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona. And you got to be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, it's 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Again, guys, Underdog Fantasy. Check them out. All right, Bryan. So, I was trying to think about a time in history when you got a new coordinator in there and they kind of turned things around a little bit. And you don't really need to go back that far. You can look at the Buffalo Bills last year.
Joe Brady.
Yeah, Joe Brady took over. Josh Allen wasn't having his best season heading into that change. He's thrown a lot of interceptions. So they throw it over to Joe Brady, and they really concentrate on James Cook and the running game. Team was 5-5 at the time of the coordinator change, and they finished winning 6 of their last 7. So it's not unprecedented. I know the Chicago Bears, this version of the Chicago Bears, certainly don't have the success in their past that the Buffalo Bills had. So it's not a perfect comparison by any means, but it has happened where a team got a spark by that change. And tell us a little bit. Bryan, you know a little bit about Thomas Brown, more than I do. I was telling you off air, I haven't researched him nearly as much as you. Anything else you can tell us before we move on this topic? You talked a little bit about his tape from Carolina, but just his history as a player and a coach.
Yeah. Well, another real quick, another example was my favorite candidate potentially to be a Bears coach. That's Ben Johnson. He was, I believe, tight ends coach for the Lions, I think 2022, when they went, I think 0-8, maybe 0-9. And then they fired Anthony Lynn, put Ben Johnson in, and they've won 25 of the next 32 games with him as the offensive coordinator. So, objectively, even worse of a season than we're having now. The Lions were having when they made the switch, and now Ben Johnson is the hottest head coach candidate on the market. So just throwing that out there. Now, as far as Thomas Brown, so I just said I love Ben Johnson, and a lot of people. This is a little sidebar, but a lot of people are, I'll say it, rooting for the Bears to fail the rest of the year so that Flus is gone 100%. And I understand that. I get it. As a Bears fan, earmuffs, fuck that, right? I don't care about anything else but right now I'm winning. And if Thomas Brown comes in and becomes a Ben Johnson and turns our offense around and keeps Eberflus's job, then good for him and good for Eberflus. Does Eberflus deserve to stay? No, he doesn't. But if Thomas Brown comes around, shoot, maybe he'll get the head coaching job down the road. I'd be fine with that. Like I'm about the Bears winning and Caleb Williams and that offense putting up points and the defense keeping their drive and their swagger all year and shutting down defenses or offenses. And, no better team to do that against than the Packers. That said, Thomas Brown, former running back from University of Georgia. And he actually was drafted and played, who was it for? I think the Rams. No, I don't think it was the Rams. I forget who he played for early on, but he had a bad injury and got into coaching. And I forget where he started, but I know he circa 2018, 2019, he went to the Rams and he was under McVay. And he actually today he credited McVay as his biggest inspiration or mentor, if you will, learn the most from McVay. He has credited McVay with being the best communicator he's ever been around, and really learning the whole offensive style from Sean McVay, which is encouraging. But then again, we're Bears fans. We've heard this stuff before. Supposedly Waldron was from McVay, and we see how that worked out. Not so much. So I'll believe it when I see it. Like I'm really excited about Thomas. Not really excited. I'm somewhat excited about Thomas Brown, but I need to see it first. The stuff I'm telling you about the short, quick game, about using his playmakers. One thing to hear it in a press conference and kind of come away with that takeaway. Another thing to see it on Sunday. But he was promoted. He was actually assistant head coach with the Rams. Very highly respected. Matt Stafford loves him. I think Matt Stafford actually played with him too at Georgia. And then obviously he's with the Panthers. And a lot of people are kind of crapping on his time with the Panthers because of how bad the Panthers were. But, Frank Reich was the lame duck coach and got fired or before he got fired, rescinded his play calling duties to Thomas Brown. I think then he took them back. And look at the talent that the Panthers had. They had Bryce Young, who was overdrafted, and they had nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. They had nobody on the offensive line, really, no weapons, and you expect him to do well. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you saw this. His best game as a play caller was against the Packers. Bryce Young,
I did hear that.
300 something yards and a few touchdowns. And DJ Shark had one of his best games of recent memory. And they did really well. And he talked about that today in his press conference. And there's a new DC in Green Bay. But I will say, if you have success against Green Bay, you're already warming up to me.
Yeah.
And and he was real humble about it. He was like, the guys just decided, they just played well that game. But I think I'm excited to see what he can do with our level of talent. As a former running back, I understand the importance of a run game. I think he does as well, even though he was in charge of the pass game for us. But the like I talked about before, with the short pass game being implemented and the run game, and he actually really highlighted getting the playmakers the ball, which you would think is something everybody knows to do. But for some reason, we have avoided doing that. Cole Kmet went how many games without a target? DJ Moore has had his worst target share of his career after his career best year with us. It doesn't make sense. But hopefully we have a normal human being coming in who can make things happen. I'm tired of hearing the excuses. Oh, well, the defense dictates who gets. F that. Get the ball to your best player and scheme him open, period. End of story. Football's not hard.
Yeah.
Get it to your best players and win games.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, to your point, I can't root, for the Bears to lose every game. The off season's too long. How long did we wait for this season? I've rooted for them to lose in the past when we were bottoming out on purpose and tanking, but now I want the team to win. I see Bears Junkie in the chat said losing the rest of the way wouldn't be good for Caleb's development. 100% agree. Yep. He's got to get some confidence going. And like you said, you never know what's going to happen here with Thomas Brown. But nobody was talking about Ben Johnson a few years ago. So who knows? I don't think it's likely that kind of thing happens, but it's not impossible. If this guy lights a fire under this offense and he gets some playing well, that's a good thing for the Bears. How could it not be?
Yeah, great for his resume, for sure.
Yeah. So, I hope it happens. And like you said, no better team to have it start against than Green Bay, you would hope. We
Yeah.
were going to have a little bit of a discussion on Eberflus, but I think we'll table that until we'll see how this game goes, and then maybe next week we'll talk about Matt Eberflus. We kept it on the OC this week, so let's just look ahead, Bryan, to this Green Bay Packers game and how frustrating it has been to be a Chicago Bears fan against Green Bay, pretty much post Lovie Smith. Lovie had some success against Green Bay. But other than that, I mean, you'd have to go back. I'm 40 years old. You'd have to go back to when I was practically an infant and a toddler to the last time the Bears had any dominant stretches against Green Bay, other than that small period in the 2000s with Lovey. And, you look at this game and where it's come up now, and we were so hopeful that this team would be building steam and having success against a weak schedule and going in 6-3 or 7-2. And instead, we got a losing record now. Everything's on fire. We seem to be bottoming out. And so, of course, it's the Green Bay Packers. And they can take advantage of this situation like they often had. And, I hope this is not going to be a 30 or 40 point drubbing at home like we've seen happen against the Packers in recent memory. I hope they keep it competitive. I could never bet on the Bears in this game. I said in our preview show before the season, even when I had pretty high expectations for the Bears, I wasn't going to pick them to beat Green Bay until they proved to me they can beat Green Bay.
You did.
I don't think the Green Bay Packers are a scary team by any means. Jordan Love's had a rough season. He's had a rough season. And I think Jordan Love is a solid quarterback. I don't think he's Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't put fear into me like those guys did as a Bears fan, where I was like, oh God, here we go. Right. Aaron Rodgers, you would go out of a game injured and you're like, this dude's going to come back on the field and he's going to light us up. And that's what would happen, like every time. I don't feel that way about Jordan Love. I know he's had success last year against the Bears, but man, this guy's struggling this year. I mean, he has thrown an interception in every single game he has played. His passer rating is not great right now. What is he at? Like a 88 passer rating? It's not that much higher than Caleb's. Yeah, Caleb's at an 81 passer rating for the year. Jordan Love's at, we know he's been battling injuries, but he's at an 88 passer rating. He's got the 15 touchdowns. He's got some great young receivers around him, but he's got 10 interceptions in 7 games played this year, which is not good. So is it a winnable game? I mean, it should be, but the way the Bears are playing right now, I can't pick them. I couldn't even take them with the points either. I mean, where are you at here, Bryan?
So
that says it all right there.
Yeah, it does. Cheers to that. Let's just take a pause and cheers to that. My fantasy teams are shot because I invested in Caleb Williams, and Thomas Brown invokes some optimism. And historically, there are advantages. There's statistical evidence that shows that new coaches, new coordinators, in their first game, it does actually have results that you would like. Right? There is that. So that kind of gives me, because there's an element of surprise. Like, oh shit, they're actually going to get DJ the ball and Cole the ball, and like we didn't think that was going to happen. Which, by the way, I know you heard about that Xavier McKinney quote, but I love me some bulletin board material this week. And I know DJ, I mean, you see every single time he catches the ball, he doesn't want to give it up. He wants to, run that thing until he can do anything and score the ball, because he might not get it again all game. But I think he's going to be a man on fire this week. And I'll let you share that quote because I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I got it here. Let me read it. Yeah. So, there's been a lot of turmoil around DJ, to say the least, in the last few weeks. And I think a lot of it warranted. But yeah, Xavier McKinney said today, quote, "This dude walked out on his QB. I've been playing football for 5 years now, and I've been watching football for longer than that. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. You're supposed to be the guy, and you're walking off the field on a rookie QB. There's some drama for you going into this game." And you're right. Yeah. I mean, DJ's got something to prove now.
No, and honestly, Xavier McKinney's not wrong. Now, should he be saying that Bears Packers week? You know, as a Bears fan, no. As a Packers fan, yeah, they don't care about us. They have had our number, like you said, for decades. We're nothing to them. It's no longer a rivalry to them. So screw us. But DJ Moore, and I'm sure you've seen it, he's only been able to play the Packers a couple times, but he knows what this means, and he is ready to play. And I will say, both times we played them last year, DJ Moore did not get the ball as much as he should have. And every time he touched it, he made something happen. I anticipate Thomas Brown making something happen. And so if there's a betting line on DJ Moore, I would probably take it this week because of all these things. Now, again, I have to bench my Bears because in fantasy because they have been playing like crap. But I think this is an interesting week, and I like the money line for us is we get $200 as the Bears do, and so it's not a bad bet. I would not be surprised if the Bears snuck away with this game. As you said, the Packers are beatable. The thing is, you remember that play last week when Elijah Hicks dropped that pick in the end zone?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't have those. And,
yeah.
I remember so many years, bro, we would drop those sort of plays against Aaron Rodgers, and they would only happen one time a game.
Yep.
Once a game, he would give you a ball, and we would drop it. And the one time we caught it, if you remember Bojack, back in our red zone, I think it was on like the 2-yard line, he caught it, and we sealed that game in 2018 against them. I think it's the last time we beat them. Yeah. And we can't let those slip away. We cannot. If we don't, I would bet we win the game. If we do, game over.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, Jordan Love's going to give him those opportunities.
Yeah.
He's just, that's the way he's throwing the ball this year. Like I said, interception every single game. He's only had one game with a passer rating over 100 this year. Caleb's had 3. And you might say, look, Caleb was doing it against weak teams like the Jags and the Rams at the time and Carolina. But I got news for you. Jordan Love played the Jags and the Rams too, and he didn't have a 100 passer rating. So
Matt LaFleur is the difference.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not scared of Jordan Love, man. I'm not. And I don't think our defense is. So one thing I want to get to is this, the Packer game. And DeAndre Swift. I think it was Monday. Might have been Tuesday, but he talked about essentially the quote that stuck out to me was he doesn't need any outside motivation. If you're not motivated enough to play this game, you shouldn't be playing. So you take that and combine it with Packer Week, and offense and defense should be playing at their highest level that they have played all season. They just should be.
Yeah.
And there's just that energy. And if they don't feel it now, they will feel it at Soldier Field, right? They were there, the players were, last week against the Patriots. Nobody cares about the Patriots. I probably could have gotten a ticket for half price last week. This week, it's going to be 3 times the price. The players will feel that. So, and that's what I'm banking on is our guys coming to play. And I really think it goes back to our offensive line. Like, all of it boils down to offensive line, because as a cornerback, as a Montez Sweat stud defensive end, if you're watching the offensive line not be able to block anybody, it's tough because you can't score points.
Mm-hmm.
But if our tackles are back, if we can actually move the ball and put up some points, like, again, I won't be surprised if we win this game. Obviously, it's a Bears freaking podcast, but I mean, this is one of those games. This is a trap game for Green Bay. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with that entirely. Yeah, it's it is one of those games where, like you said, it's the Patriots or the Cardinals. It's the Cardinals. Like, these are not big rivalry games. We came out looking bad. You would have thought, like I said in the show open, that they would want to come into those games and change the narrative, and they didn't. But for this game, when the eyes of the fan base are going to be hyper focused, this is the game where the coaches should be selling this on the players, if they still have any buy-in at all. Now, I'm not sure about Eberflus in the squad. We'll save that, for another podcast if they believe in him at all anymore. But for our new offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, to get this offense going, I mean, look, I'd be selling them on this so hard. You want to change the narrative on this team? You beat the Green Bay Packers,
Oh
a
gosh.
team that the Bears have not beat since 2018. Just historic ineptitude. How can you go 6 years without beating a division team? You play two times a year. It's insanity, man. Like, you would think you would just have one game where the ball would bounce the right way.
It's embarrassing.
And then, before that too, they weren't beating them before 2018 either. So it's like, Thomas Brown, you tell this offense, you get them up for this game. Like, you want to change the narrative fast on this team, you come out and you smack down the Green Bay Packers, and this city will believe in you again. You lose in an embarrassing fashion, it's freaking I mean, people are going to be calling for Flus's head the next day,
right?
For sure,
right.
But I mean, this is the game. This is the game more than any that can change the trajectory of this season. I mean, it'd be nice to beat the Vikings, be nice to beat the Lions, but Green Bay means way more than both of those teams. We all know that, and just because of how piss poor it has been against this team for so long, and here we are in our home field again. I thought last year, the first time they played him there with Jordan Love. Game 1, wasn't it? First game of the season. It's like, dude, if they lose to Jordan Love, the city's going to lose their minds. Not only did they lose to him in the opener, they lost to him both times. Yeah. Let's change the narrative, you guys. I mean, we have the talent. There's a lot of talent, despite what's, with the offensive line and all the injuries and the lack of depth there. And yes, it's true. That's bad. We got playmakers all over the field at the skill positions. Get them the ball. Let's make something happen.
And I believe we can. We've got the talent for it. Honestly, man, like if we beat Green Bay, at least in Chicago, I'll be happy with the rest of the year.
I know. Just need that win. Just got to get the narrative changing against the Green Bay Packers, man.
I'm fascinated to see how Caleb performs. Mm-hmm. Right? The hallmark of the best is that they show up in the most critical moments. And for Caleb Williams, biggest game of his career by far. By far. We have an advantage because we've got a new play caller. But can he like I said, even in the games we did well, he started slow. If he can start on point from the first quarter, then man, if our first drive we put up points, I'll bet somebody on this chat will win the game. If we put up points the first quarter, barring any injuries and all that stuff, especially to our O-line, we will put up points. Then we'll win the game early because he needs to have that confidence. And if Thomas Brown, I'm optimistic, but it's the plight of a Bears fan, and I am cursed as you are for the rest of our lives for maintaining that optimism despite some of the worst history in professional sports.
Can you imagine if on that opening drive, Caleb hit like DJ or Rome for a deep touchdown, like actually hit the deep pass? In that place, I could hear Soldier Field from this office if that happened on the opening drive. I mean, people would lose their minds. Yeah. So, if they start fast, I think they can do it.
I would rather have like a few, first downs and then hit them deep. Yeah. Like I don't want just a lucky play. We got, broke them when it counted. I would love, but you're right. Like if we can actually connect on something, to score first of all in the first quarter, because I think we're the worst team in the league scoring in the first quarter. But first drive against Green Bay, that'd be money. Now, my heart and my head would rather us be on defense to start and put that pressure on Jordan Love. But as I alluded to earlier, the Packers, they don't care about this rivalry, man. We are their little
rivalry.
brother.
Yeah, what rivalry?
We are their little
them?
Brother. It doesn't matter to them. But I still believe in our defense. Assuming Montez Sweat can actually play, because I know he's actually out of practice today. Yeah. And definitely looked hobbled last week. But Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. My eyes will be glued, even though we stink right now.
I'll still feel really good about it if we get
Oh
that
gosh,
win. So
I'm back on Bear. This is my first consecutive back-to-back Bears over Beers. I think I'm with Kyrie next week, but
yeah.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, what happens.
I mean, if we beat Green Bay, I'll be back here on the show in 2 weeks. I'll still be smiling no matter what happens in the next
Hey,
game. So
come back and join us next week, bro. If we beat the Packers, we should have like a foursome of Bears over Beers. Let's make it happen. Get Lester on here.
I
Or
might just pop.
JB.
I
Yeah,
might just pop into shotgun a beer and then leave.
The Wednesday after. That'd be hilarious. Hey, Bears over Beers. Let's get some videos of live content, people shotgunning beers after the Bears victory. Oh man.
Maybe I'll just do that. Maybe I'll record myself and send it to you guys. You can play it on the show. If the Bears can pull it off, I'll record a video of myself shotgunning a beer and I'll send it for you guys to play on the show.
Absolutely.
Deal.
Oh my goodness. Hey. Oh man.
All right. On that note, you guys, we're gonna wrap this week's show. Let's hope we're having a fun time next week here on Bears Over Beers with Kyrie and Bryan, and possibly a virtual appearance for myself. We'll see what happens. We appreciate you guys joining us tonight, though. Of course, as always, hit subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already, and please hit the like button. That helps us a lot. If you're watching us live right now, just click the like button. Cheers to you, Bryan.
Hey,
cheers to all the listeners.
Yeah, cheers to you and all listeners. If you're listening, you're a Bears fan, you're a diehard. Life deserves to be better for you, and I salute you. And yeah, go Bears. Go Bears.
Absolutely. Cheers. And guys, cheers. Guys, check out all the other content here on the channel after our show, Second City Gridiron, all kinds of stuff going up on the podcast feed and also on the YouTube channel. Of course, Bears and Balanced is always awesome with JB and Lester, Bear and Balanced. Check that out. We got Taylor Dahl doing awesome shows, Bill Zimmerman. Of course, Mason West is around. I mean, everybody's pumping out content, whether or not the Bears are disappointing us like they have been lately, or if they've got us excited. This is your number one source for Chicago Bears media. Appreciate your support. We will see you all next time. Go Bears.